What is going on, folks? I am your co-host, Manpreet, aka MMA Lock of the Night, joined by my guy Clint from Die Hard MMA Pod, and I believe this is episode number 12, Clint, if I'm not mistaken.
Big 1, 2.
I can't believe it's already been this long, but I've been enjoying every single week that we've been doing this. But there's something a little bit different this week than there was the prior. I am officially married, Clint. I am officially
Oh, snap.
married. Well, technically, I've officially been married, but like once we do the Indian festivities, then it feels a little bit more real. I don't know what it is. Me and my wife, the day after our wedding, we're like, something feels different. Like it feels more official. Like we did our, like, I don't know if anybody's familiar with the Indian ceremony or anything like that. One of the things that we have to do is like we have to walk around our holy book 5 times, and each circle represents a certain aspect of life. Like one of them is like forgetting about the past. We have a completely new slate, looking into our hearts, all that, religious type of stuff coming into it. And I don't know if it's the aura of the temple or the aura of going through all these ceremonies and rituals that just make things feel a little bit different. But one thing I know I missed for sure, Clint, was talking to your face. I know we're starting to do this thing on a weekly basis, especially on my channel with the Fighter Stonks and Prediction Strikes partnership that we just kind of tightened up a little bit so we can start doing on a weekly basis. But man, I miss your face. How you been, dude?
I missed your face too, Locke. It makes me feel good that you went off on a adventure and had a spiritual awakening and got married to the love of your life, but you were thinking about me. So,
I wish it was you behind me this entire time.
Makes me feel all warm inside. No, I'm happy for you, man. That's awesome. I've been on the other side of the fence as far as getting married, so I understand it took a while for it to sink in for me too. It doesn't quite feel real the first day that you wake up after it's all said and done. Takes a little bit. I'm sure, your week-long ceremonies probably has something to do with that sinking in a little bit harder, because I'm old-fashioned classic white boy. We had one of the quickest weddings of all time. We kept the ceremony short so that people didn't get bored, and we danced our faces off. It was basically just a gigantic party for my wedding, so not quite as impactful. It took a little bit for us to realize something was different, but man, it's been a long week. It's been a long while that we haven't done this show. Feels good to be back, and a lot has been going on in the world of MMA, so I can't wait to kind of chat it all out with you. There's some stuff to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. It took a little, like maybe a day and a half, 2 days for me to get out of that fog of wedding week, right? Like my in-laws flew in on the Monday midnight. They flew in, and then from Tuesday on, it was just like we got a tent set up in our backyard. We have neighbors and family and cousins coming over. We're just getting shit-faced in the backyard to like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. almost every single night, other than wedding night, the night before the wedding, of course. Sure. But the goal for a lot of people was to get me to the point of throwing up in terms of getting that shit-faced, but unsuccessful on their end. I managed to hold my liquor pretty well throughout that week.
Nice.
And I was very proud of that. But no, man, I had a lot of fun. Apparently, we're going to be doing it again in about a week and a half, because we're actually going to be flying out to Saskatchewan and celebrating with the family that wasn't able to make it here. So we're going to go out there and, not have 6 days of festivities like we did this past week, but we'll be doing it the old-fashioned white way, Clint. We're going to just have one evening reception, dance our faces off, get as fucked up as we want, and just enjoy, man. I'm very much looking forward to that aspect of it as well. But once Monday reached, like 2 days ago reached, I was like, all right, let's gear back up. Let's get back into MMA mode. Let's get back into, fight mode, not to mention just fight mode, but a pay-per-view, right? Like what better way to get jacked up for a fight week than to have 2 title fights on the line this coming weekend? It's not like we're coming back to Cynthia Calvillo versus Jessica I fight week, right? Like it's nothing like that. We got some legitimate fights coming up, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts on some of that stuff when we talk about it later. but there's a bunch of topics for us to go through, and I have a little bit of a hot take for the first topic that we got coming up. So
I
without
love it.
further ado, I'll hand it on over to you in terms of transitioning us to our first topic that we want to discuss for this podcast.
Yeah. So the first thing that we want to kind of talk about is everything that's been going on with the judging and refereeing in MMA. That's always one of the topics that we end up falling on because, like, to be honest, it's always a shit show. Something goes wrong every single weekend with the judges, with the reffing. So we kind of wanted to kick this show off with the subject of point deductions because last card we saw a point get deducted. Now, whether or not it was fair and how it was handled, those are things that we kind of want to get into because my guy Alex De Silva grabbed that fence with his toesies 22 times. I mean, the referee is literally standing there, like slapping his leg, yelling at him to quit doing it. And he just keeps on grabbing the fence with his feet. So it kind of makes us wonder about, was it justified? How was it handled? Man, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I think we need to heap praise on to the judge that night because maybe he let it go on a little bit too long. You know, he kept yelling at him. Maybe he let it go on a little bit too long, but the verbal point deduction, I loved it. Don't take away the position. Don't wait until the end of the round. Don't stand them up and put them in a neutral spot since, Joe Selecki had done all the work to get his back in the first place. Let him keep the back. Let him keep working. But he announces in the middle of the scramble, 1 point deduction, 1 point. I was like, yes, this is, in my opinion, the way to do it, Locke. I really hope that judges do that kind of thing more often when it's that exact circumstance. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want judges screaming that they're taking a point willy-nilly in the cage anymore. But in that exact spot where the guy has done the work, the guy has the dominant position, we've seen it so many times where they pause the action, they stand them up, and then they're in like a neutral spot. And you're like, bro, the grappler, like, so what? He got the point deducted. The grappler's now stuck on the feet and he's going to get punched in the face again. Like, that's almost more of a punishment than the point for the guy that was wronged. I don't know. So I want to hear your thoughts. I loved how it was handled. I hope we see more judging and officiating like that in the future.
I would love to see the willy-nilly, shoot at the hip guy, just deducting points left and right. We're gonna get a 6-3 round one of these fights or something like that. Like, it would be hilarious to see that. But the hot take that I was kind of alluding to is the whole cage grabbing, the fence grabbing thing, right? I feel like we need to give the fighters a little bit more slack in terms of when they are kind of pushing their hands up against the cage. To have the glove on your hand, it's already hard enough to kind of pressure your hand back and push it up against the cage. It almost reflex, like, just because of your reflexes, your fingers automatically go through the cage, right? That's the one thing that we kind of overlook with a lot of fighters. Like, as soon as like a guy's hand touches the cage, it'll automatically kind of just slip through one of the holes, and it might look like they're holding the fence.
It's
I
like the
don't
Tanner
have an
Boser
issue with that.
situation.
Sorry?
Like the Tanner Boser situation.
Correct.
He made the fist against the cage and everyone
Yes.
thought he was grabbing it.
Yeah, well, the difference with the Tanner Boser situation is he had his like knuckle up against the cage. It wasn't actually like, actually, no, sorry. He had it like this up against the cage. So yeah, his hand was already closed and you can already see that he wasn't grabbing the cage. But like, there are instances where like you're pushing up a guy against the cage and trying to defend yourself. And yeah, it might go to the fence. I think the point and the warning should come is if you see actual tension of that guy pulling on the cage. Because if they're just pushing up against it, I've seen so many times where they're unintentionally doing it and they're not holding the cage. And the referee's like, hey, watch your hands, don't hold the cage, don't hold the fence, all that type of stuff. I felt like we saw a lot of it in the Andreas Mihalaitis fight. That's where I believe that was the second fight of the night. And that's where there was a ton of those warnings. But I don't feel like he was holding the cage to essentially, stop himself from getting taken down. I think it happened once, but there's just so many times where like I would plead to anybody, just go buy a pair of MMA gloves, put them on and find a fence of some sort and just try to push your hand up against it. Automatically your finger is going to go through it just based on the tension that you're feeling from the glove itself. My concern is they should start warning fighters if it looks like they're actually pulling against it, that it actually, has an effect on the position that's trying to be established from either guy. I feel like we just hear too many of these warnings where I feel like the guy isn't intentionally trying to hold a fence. That's the issue. So yeah, that's kind of the hot takeish that I've had, is where I've like, okay, I understand that people don't like the fence grabbing or anything like that, but still, like, you got to be careful in terms of like not having any tension and pulling when you're getting taken down or something like that. That's blatant, that's obvious, but not when you're just trying to post up, especially when guys are trying to just post up off of the fence, right? You see the referee just like, hey, get off the cage, get off the cage. No, they're using it. It's a part of the environment that you're fighting in. But if they are legitimately and you see some resistance, then okay, I see it. But in regards to the Alex De Silva point deduction, I think he deserved that one. I do think, like, the toes intertwining again, like even that, actually, like, you can even like how much control do we have over our digits on our toes, right?
How are you supposed to keep your toes out of the cage in that situation?
Exactly. Unless he's like legitimately gripping it with his toes, and you can
Which
see the
I think he
tension,
was.
which he was for sure. But especially when fighters like trying to fight out of positions up against the cage, they're gonna go through the fence. It all depends on how they're actually using it. Do they mean to do it, or are they intentionally doing it? And I feel like you'll be able to tell that if you see the resistance on the cage, you see the cage being pulled towards them. So I think we need to relax a little bit on, oh my God, there's so much fence grabbing. And I love my guy, John Anik, but he was calling out every single moment when I don't think the intentions of the fighter was to use the cage as an advantage to themselves. So yeah, I saw a lot of people talking about it. I say like, oh, so many fighters are using it out, but I think we need to cut these fighters a little bit more slack, because we got to be realistic with it. From, couch potato, or what is it? Couch warrior, whatever the fuck you want to call
Couch jockey.
it, couch jockey, keyboard warrior, whatever you want to call it. It's easy to say, hey, he's grabbing the cage. Technically, he's not really, if you know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, they're always like, and I do think if there was a legitimate grab and you see the tension on the cage, automatic point. You got your warning in the back, as John Nick always says. All the referees are obviously go through these rules with the fighters before the fights. Automatic point deduction. That's illegal. I don't care if it's a reflex. I don't care if it's a habit, human nature, whatever the fuck you call it. It is legitimate illegal to grab the fence in that situation, and you should get a point taken away like that. Yeah. What are your thoughts on what I have to say in regards to that?
I mean, I think it's fair. I like cutting the fighters a little bit of slack in certain situations. It's also situational in MMA luck. It's always super situational in these spots. And that's where, honestly, we don't see a whole lot of point deductions. We don't. Like, I know everyone was getting all over the fighters this past card because there were so many fence grabs. Maybe a point could have been deducted, but at the end of the day, one wasn't. They yelled at him a whole bunch. He didn't get the point taken. So, like, it's almost kind of a moot point for me in that case. The De Silva one, I think, was definitely warranted considering how many times he got warned. And to your point, the fact that it did seem like tension was being put on the cage with his toes, he was definitely using it, trying to improve his position. I felt like that one was very deserving. I didn't watch the Michaelitis fight super closely. I was actually returning a rental vehicle to the airport when it was going on. So I heard about the fence grabs. I did not actually watch the fence grabs because I'll listen to the fight sometimes while I'm driving, but obviously I'm not watching on my phone while I'm behind the wheel of a car. So heard about it, didn't get to see it, can't speak too strongly on that one. But still, again, we went through that whole entire fight card. The story of the fight card is fence grabs, just 1 point deducted, just one. So like, I still just don't think it happens all that often.
Yeah, exactly. We don't hear about it as often as we did on this, like compared to this card, right? Almost every single fight, it seems like they were talking about it. And John was very much pointing towards a lot of them. And again, I think at least 80% of them, we could cut the fighters a little bit of slack, but is what it is. I feel like we've beaten that fence grabbing thing to death at this point in time. So
I'm a little upset, Locke. If I'm being honest, I'm a little bit upset because after that fight happened, I went, you know what? They're going to make an example of somebody. So many so many fence grabs, so many warnings. There's no way this card goes without a point deduction. So I threw a little dart at my guy Benoit Saint Denis and Nicholas Stolze to get the point deduction in their fight because I knew Benoit would be going for the takedowns at 20-1. Didn't happen, Boom, happens on the Alex De Silva Joe Solecki fight. I'm like, why didn't I like chop up a unit and throw like 4 or 5 little darts at that prop instead of just picking one, man? Because I knew it was coming. I was so pissed off that I got the wrong fight by like 1 or 2 fights.
That's insane. I know we have another topic coming up right here, but I am curious because there were some controversial decisions on this card as well. I guess it's kind of, we can lump it into,
Hand in hand, it'll go with the
bowels.
topic.
We might as well swing into that. We had a couple controversial ones, right? Jeff Molina, Zalgas Sumagulov being one of them. Not to mention Molina's reaction before that last scorecard was read was, absolutely hilarious. And then he goes back and gets the win. It kind of reminded me of Lyoto Machida versus Rampage Jackson way back in the day, where like Jackson had that like mystified look on his face, like, oh my God, I actually won this fight. All right, sick. And I believe even the Joe Solecki fight, that was an egregious scorecard, in my opinion. I'm not sure how you can give him 2 rounds in that fight. Yeah, one judge had it 29-27. Absolutely crazy. What were your thoughts on some of those weird decisions?
The scoring was bonkers this week, man. I'll be completely honest. I actually put out a Twitter poll on it, and I asked I asked the community which card they thought was worse, the Joe Solecki 29-27 card or the Jeff Molina 30-27 card. Now, for me personally, I think the Joe Solecki card was worse.
Yeah.
Because it was a obvious, clear as day, 1-3 for Alex De Silva. I see some people making an argument for Joe Solecki winning round 3. I'm not buying it. I don't see it. I don't think there's a strong argument for it. My favorite judge in the world, Sal D'Amato, is the only one on the planet who believes Joe Solecki won round 3. So then round 2 was obviously Joe Solecki's round, and it makes it a 10-8 with the point deduction. The only way that you can have Joe Solecki winning that fight is if you make round 2 a 10-8 on its own and then add the point deduction on top of that, making it a 10-7, which I again don't agree with, Locke. I don't understand how back control, never truly threatening to finish the fight, becomes a 10-8 round. That's the softest 10-8 round scorecard I think we've seen in a long time, because let's be real, even in that very fight, if that's a 10-8 round, then round 1 was a 10-8 round for Alex De Silva, who nearly took Joe Solecki's head off early in that fight. That was more dominant. That was closer to finishing. I don't understand how you can give one 10-8 and not the other a 10-8 if that's the way you're approaching that fight. So I think that was just a terrible, awful scorecard by the judges on the Joe Solecki fight. My guy, Jeff Molina, did he deserve a 30-27 lock? I don't think so. I think that fight was very clearly round 2 for Zalgas Zumagulov. He landed the bigger, more effective strikes plus the cage control time. I don't know that there's much of an argument for Jeff to win round 2 in that fight. And then similarly, I don't think there's much of an argument for Zalgas to win round 3. He had little to no control time, was out-volumed, and all the effective striking came from Jeff Molina. I felt like those 2 rounds were clear as day. And round 1 is the swing round. You can judge that one however the hell you want. It was close as far as both guys doing equal amounts. One guy had a little bit of control time. One guy had a little bit more effective striking. That's in the eye of the beholder. We've talked about how, hard MMA is to judge these days, because which one do you favor? Is it the control time that gets it, or is it the effective striking and volume that gets it when not a whole lot happens? I land on the striking and volume side personally. So I had it 29-28 for Jeff Molina. But I don't think you can score 30-27 for either fighter in that fight. So I felt like 30-27, no matter who it was for, was an egregious scorecard. And to comment on that, to kind of piggyback on that, people talking about how there's no way Jeff could have won because he didn't even think he won the fight. Guys, he just thought he was getting fucked on a 30-27. Like, as soon as he heard 30-27, he went, there's no way I got a 30-27. So he thought he lost the fight.
He thought he lost at least one round, meaning he lost the entire fight, right?
Meaning
I absolutely agree with you.
Because whichever judge gave 30-27, it wasn't going to him, which, again, I agree with. I think he won 2 rounds, not 3. So, like, he wasn't leaving thinking, I shouldn't win this fight. I lost the fight. There's no way I won the fight. It was that one judge scoring 30-27. He went, there's no way that's for me.
Yeah, I agree with you that the Solecki scorecard is way more egregious. Like, it's clear as day, rounds 1 and round 2, who won those rounds. And then even round 3, it's pretty clear that De Silva won that round just based off of damage, right?
Damage.
If we want to look at the the MMA decisions fan scoring here for that fight, I believe it's 92% of fans
Oh,
scored round 3 for De Silva. Yeah, 96 out of 80 scorecards submitted on MMA decisions had it for Alex De Silva. And one judge actually did give Joe Selecki a 10-8 in round 2, ultimately a 10-7 due to the point deduction. That's our guy Derek Cleary, or Cleary, I should say, sorry. But yeah, this fight should have been a draw. It should not have been a 10-8 in that second round. That would have given us a draw. That would have given us a majority decision. And that scorecard from Saudi Model giving Selecki round 3, that wouldn't have mattered anyway, right? The only guy to get it right was, or sorry, not guy, only gal to get it right was Adelaide Bird. Are you
man.
kidding me? When
Shout out to
Adelaide
my
Bird is the only one.
guy. Shout out to my guy Dan from Half the Battle. He tweeted, "If Adelaide Bird is the voice of reason, God help us all."
Exactly. Actually, yeah. So yeah, Adelaide Bird had a 10-9, ultimately a 10-8 round 2 there for Selecki with that point deduction. But good God, Sal Diamato, not
Oh,
doing yourself
buddy.
any favors. How do you score that third round for Selecki? Makes zero to no sense. Yeah, and the worst part of it all, Clint, Alex De Silva gets cut.
I thought that was brutal. I
Like
don't know. I don't know if
what?
maybe that's like his management team asking for too much. Maybe there were conversations we're not aware of going into that fight where it was like, you lose and you're done. Maybe he was betting on himself type. There's stuff we don't know about that situation. But I thought that was brutal, Locke, because he's
Horrible.
obviously very talented. He's obviously growing. A young fighter who has nothing but room to improve showed those improvements in this exact fight and arguably won the fight. Like, had the fight ripped away from him because of an official, like, I don't agree with that UFC cut whatsoever. I have no idea why that took place. It's a travesty. I'm sure we'll see that man again because he deserves to be in the UFC, and he won 2 out of the 3 of those rounds on Saturday.
Yeah, hopefully he gets a shot with one of those regional promotions on Fight Pass. The UFC sees that he's killing it on Fight Pass, and he eventually comes back to the UFC. Like you said, 26 years old. He still has a ton of time to make a mark inside the MMA world. And I feel like this is not going to be the last time we see Alex De Silva. Now, I'm glad that we ended off that initial topic with judging and scorecards because it leads right into our next topic about Joe Rogan trying to fix MMA judging without knowing that it's already exactly what he had suggested here. So I'm going to read a quote that he had from one of his podcasts. And this was actually in response to the Holly Holm and Ketlin Vieira card a couple weeks before, but it has just as much of significance coming off of this last card as well. So here he is, quote for quote, from his podcast. Maybe there's a way to score it like you would give points for moments in fights where someone either did damage or someone had control, but control was not worth as much damage because you can survive control unscathed. Just because someone has you down maybe in half guard and you're just clinching and controlling, you can survive that for a couple of minutes sometimes and nothing happens. Even though the person's in control of you, it's not that big of a deal. But then damage, how much is damage worth? Like if you see the person gets wobbled or you see like a big impactful kick, you're like, wow, that was a significant moment in the fight. So that should be worth more instead of being attached to the system. It's just not comprehensive enough, I don't think. Joe, you've been commentating this sport for years and years and years. You haven't come across the judging criteria at least once. You don't even listen to the beginning of the broadcast when John Anik breaks down the rules and what the judging criteria is. It is just that, what you just explained, my friend. So I love Joe, but this is like a further attribution that he maybe should hang up the mic at this point in time in terms of commentating. Go back to doing the fight companions like he used to do with his boys when he was living in LA still. That's where he should be at this point in time. I love his insight. I love his, pioneer perspective in a sense, right? The guy's been around for years, right? He's been around since like the beginning pretty much. But to think that you're fixing the judging problem by explaining the actual rule set as is, I don't know what to say. I'm dumbfounded. I want to make him my daily doofus, but luckily for him, there's somebody else that already said something stupid enough that deserves that dubious honor this week. But Clint, please let me know what your thoughts on Joe Rogan trying to fix judging is.
Like, it's hilarious to me, man. It is hilarious to me because he just needs to lay off the shrooms. Like that. Bottom line, like just a few less. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for the recreational judging. The recreational drugs and everyone. The marijuana being legalized. But it seems like he's mixing maybe a few too many of them because this is something that was fixed back in 2017, unless I'm mistaken. Like that's exactly how the judging system works today, and it's been that way for a while. Like honestly, man, I just don't think he's paying attention. And he's trying to fix a broken system. I get that. Even if the rules, the letter of the law says what he's saying, we don't always see that reflected on fight night. So I'm going to cut our boy Joe just a little bit of slack because even if that is what the rules says, it's not exactly what's being upheld by the judges. So I'll give him a little bit of room here, but I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was really funny that he like reverse engineered the rules, thinking he had a light bulb moment on his podcast. Pretty hilarious. Sorry, Joe, buddy. We had to all kind of roast you because of that. Because yeah, that was a good one.
Well, I've heard a couple, like obviously judging has been a huge topic of conversation over the last couple of weeks, and I've heard somebody even suggest that they should have like a point system. Like I mean, like every significant strike landed should earn you a certain
Ugh.
amount of points. Every takedown should earn you a certain amount of points. Personally, we don't have to get super deep into it, but I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are on that type of approach.
That just makes it too binary, man. Caitlin
Yeah.
Chukagian is your new champion if that's the system that we're working with. I mean, like because there is something to be said for effective striking. Not all significant strikes are created equally. Effective control of your opponent. Like if we get a robot like the PFL does that just spits numbers out at us, you can game that system. Now, obviously, you can game this system, and it's being done right in front of our eyes, so there's no getting away from that. But I just think that you're going to take a giant piece of the game out of it if we make it a computerized system that counts every single thing that happens, and it's going to destroy the way some of these fighters fight because it's going to become a lot more point striking based. And do we really want to reward the blanket control time? Do we really want Zalgas Zumagulov winning this fight by holding Jeff Molina against the fence for 4 minutes and that being the way you get your rankings moved up and get closer to it? No, man. John Fitch got cut for a reason. Like, we don't want that. We want the excitement. We want the entertaining fights. Personally, I don't think that that's the answer. And I've said this before, man, kind of like how in baseball and basketball, they give you the list of the umpire before the game starts. If that ump has got a wide, range where he calls his balls and strikes. Similarly to how there's a couple of basketball officials that Harden has never beaten this particular official because of the way he calls the game. Like, that's part of the game, man. Like, I wish we could get a list of the judges that would be sitting behind the desk a day or two before the fight started. Because if we could pre-plan going, okay, now I know Sal D'Amato is going to be on this fight. We know he likes this, and you know what I mean? Like, that would make it another deeper level of like, you just got to play to the strengths of whoever is judging that particular fight. It's a system that is too complex. I don't think there's a right answer, Locke. I think at the end of the day, no matter what we do, no matter what we try, and that shouldn't stop us from trying, mind you, like we should always be trying to make it better. I don't think there's an answer. I think we're going to try to shift it and adjust it, and we will find new problems. You have combined 12 plus martial arts from around the globe and tried to stick them into one cage and say which one matters more on any given night. There's no one for one. You know what I mean? There's always going to be a gap in the way these fights are scored because somebody somewhere is going to have a different opinion.
Yeah, I tried to do something good for the betting community and everybody by trying to contact the Nevada State Athletic Commission and be like, hey, what is the earliest that we are able to get judges and referees for every single fight for the upcoming UFC event? Unfortunately, they said they don't assign those things until like an hour or two before the fights actually begin. And I believe it's due to possible tampering or anything like
Yes.
bribery and all that type of shit. I'm sure Las Vegas has a huge history in regards to that. So
It makes sense.
I get where they're coming from in regards to that, but for us as people that are wagering money on it, it would be great to have that information beforehand. And just piggybacking off of what you said, it's always going to be a subjective thing. You can put these guys through as much training as you want, but they're looking at it from three different angles. Some of them not even looking at the TV every now and then. You're always going to get some sort of different perspective. And MMA is something that could be a very close fight. Just watch the Jeff Molina and Zalgas Sumagula fight, right? Each round could be very close outside of round two, per se, but there's always going to be a subjective nature to it, which is why we'll never get it right. Which is why I am a huge proponent of open scoring, giving the fighters a little bit more control over their fate going into round three, knowing they're down, rather than having the judges' scorecards being read and be like, oh shit, James Krause told me it was up 2-0 and I could be okay in the third round. You know, I mean, something like that. You know, I believe it was Tim Elliott who was fighting Matthias Nicolau and he got that ill-advised information from my guy James going into round three. But regardless, we can talk circles about this topic over and over again, Clint. I believe we got a different, slightly more serious matter to discuss as our next topic. Please do introduce us to it.
We do, man. There was some big hustle and bustle about this one. We already talked, this whole show is dedicated to Jeff Molina, apparently, today, folks. My guy, Jeff Molina, goes out there and wants to be an ally, rocks the pride gear, thought it looked cool, and the immediate backlash from the MMA community was something that apparently it's doing clicks off the charts because MMA Junkie just keeps on posting the same article about every 2 hours to make sure it continues to blow up with everybody getting all wild about it. So there's two things that happened here, Locke. One of them, which I tweeted about, I thought was hilarious. Jeff tweets about rocking the pride gear and is immediately bombarded with offers. he has to put out a tweet being like, guys, thank you. But I just like the gear. I'm just being supportive. I'm not actually playing for that team. I appreciate it though. And I about died. I thought that was maybe the funniest thing ever, that literally every gay MMA fan around the world went, oh, we got one. Like Jeff's on our team. Let's get him, boys. Like, I found that hilarious. I thought he handled it very respectfully. You know what I mean? Basically saying, I take it as a compliment. Thank you so much, but no thank you. Jeff, you handled it perfectly, buddy. But then the second round came from the backlash from the people who are not as supportive of that particular segment of people. And the MMA community, Lock, I feel like in general is not the most supportive group of people in the world. They want their blood. They want their guts. They're not very nice. So it doesn't shock me that there was some backlash for that. And I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Personally, I'm in the camp of it doesn't affect me. You do you. I'm not too worried about it. But it seems to be a big thing. And you know what? Honestly, now that I say that, Locke, I'm a little bit more heated about it because I think it's lopsided. We have seemed to got to a point here, and I just butchered that sentence. We've gotten to a point here. See, I'm so worked up. No, we've gotten to a point with MMA these days that apparently it's totally fine to be an out and gay woman, but it's not okay to be an out and gay man. So we've got people like our champion Amanda Nunes, who has a partner, who's adopted a child, who is very open about her sexuality, her orientation, or like whatever you want to refer to it as. And everyone is totally cool. You know what I mean? But we still don't have that openly gay male fighter. And Jeff isn't even that first openly gay male fighter. He's just a guy rocking the pride gear. And look at the backlash. I think it just baffles me that this is the point that we're at right now, because everybody's completely desensitized to it. There's multiple female fighters, Raquel Pennington, Tisha Torres, like there's tons of them, tons of them. And the closest we got is Jeff Molina wearing some rainbow shorts, and people had a meltdown. Or our favorite twerking fighter, who, by the way, is not. He's also not gay though. Like he's just a little different. Like he's
just
not
flamboyant.
gay though. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to hear your thoughts on it. I think it's backwards. I think it doesn't make sense. I'm kind of like, I understand why whoever the first openly gay fighter would be scared at this point, considering the backlash that we have seen so far. I'm like, I kind of can't wait until it becomes normal. You know what I mean? I'm like, somebody get out there, break the barrier, let it happen, and let us normalize it, because once people are used to it, it'll just be a thing of the past. I'm ready for it to be a thing of the past, Locke.
It's really not just a pride thing either. Like, look at me, right? A visible minority in a sport that is ruled by whatever you want to call it, the
Angry white
white
people.
yes, the white men of America, essentially, right? That's what it's ruled by, and I get my fair share of hate as well. And if you guys remember, there was a Punjabi fighter in the UFC in the past, Arjun Buller, who used to wear a turban on his way to the cage, who got his own case of hate, right? So it goes like, I don't want to do the whole like, all lives matter type of thing. That's not my approach here at all. I'm just saying that, it's a very, it is already a bottom of the barrel kind of sport, right? We are still a niche sport, as much as people want to say it. We're watching one person punch the other person in the face. We want blood. We want broken bone, whatever the hell it is. You don't see that in golf. You don't see that in basketball. You don't see it in maybe in the NHL. Maybe you'll see it there, but that's just on a wider scale, just because of how much longer it's been around than a sport like the MMA or like MMA. But like, I knew it came with the territory once I got into it, right? Like, just as anybody who's going to be scared to come out knows that it comes with the territory. But I don't think we're going to get to a point where it's going to be widely accepted, or we won't have any hate, until there are 10s, 20s, 30s of people coming out as openly gay, right? Especially on the male side of things. Because the first couple, it's always going to be tough for them, but they're always going to get the hate.
Yeah.
No matter how much support they get from the rest of the company, the rest of the fighters, the rest of the roster, the rest of the media, whoever it is, there's always going to be those bigoted people out there that are wanting to just spew their hate and just have this some sort of, I don't know what it is. Like, what does it make them feel to say those types of things, or to hurt people's feelings in that aspect? I don't get it. It's 2022. Like, we're still at the point where there's white supremacy around. There's still at the point where people, kill people for being gay or being different of any sort. We're still at that point. Luckily, we're not at the point where like chopping people's heads off with swords and all that shit. We've definitely graduated and evolved from the 15s and 1600s, but we still have a long ways to go in terms of making people feel safe and making people feel accepted. Like, I have my own concerns with the whole woke community, right? I feel like there are certain spots where they're just going a little bit overboard, right? Like, I don't even want to get into it, but like, I
we
do
can
feel
go
like
down the rabbit hole there.
exactly. We can go down the rabbit hole and spend another hour just on that. There are people that are taking advantage of it to a certain extent, but then there are like the legitimate oppressed minorities from the past, whether it's black people, whether it's gay people, whether it's, Indian people, whatever it might be. There's always going to be an oppressed group of people, but in this sport specifically, you'll see it the most. You'll definitely see it the most, just because of the sport. It is a fighting sport. It is a combat sport. The dumbest of the dumb people love this sport. And that sometimes there's people that's watching our stuff that are guilty of that. But then there's the slightly less dumb people that know that, what, it's not going to do anything for me to DM Jeff Molina and say that he's a gay idiot because he's wearing a pride outfit or something like that. Keep it to yourself. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to do you and have that type of hatred in your head, keep it to yourself. You know what I mean? It means nothing to say it to anybody else. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to make Jeff say, "Oh fuck, why am I wearing this kid? Let me burn it and I'll go wear another kid." No, it's done. It's over with. He's already worn it. You know what I mean? Things like that. I really don't understand it. There's always going to be hate in this community. There's going to be hate in every sport, but I think it's just magnified in this one because of how niche it already is and the vast percentage of people that are like that. So me and you, Clint, we already know this as content creators, as guys that put ourselves out there on a weekly basis. For some reason, the negative comments always kind of glare a little bit more than the thousands and thousands of positive comments that we get on a weekly basis. But something about that one negative comment, it'll always just kind of fester in the back of your head. But there are people that love doing that shit. I don't get it. I don't know how they get off on it. It is what it is. Comes with the sport, comes with the territory. We just gotta, what I think Jeff did was great. Putting those people on blast, it's great. That's the only thing that we can do at this point in time. But we got
I hope we keep evolving, Luck. I think it was a positive step forward. I hope the community gets larger, and I hope the community gets more accepting. My favorite thing about this sport is that I know there is a lot of racism and things like that within the fan base of the MMA community, but at the end of the day, this should being the keyword here, the least racist sport of them all, because we are literally competing people from all corners of the globe.
We talked about this the other week, right? Yeah, we talked about this the other week.
Yes. Go ahead. Yep. I'm like, I don't care where you came from. I don't care who you love. I don't get, like, none of that matters to me. Look at our guy, Master Zalgas Zumagulov. Dude's got 6 wives. I don't care. Get in the cage. Like, I just want to see him fight. So that I hope we become more widely accepting. Props to Jeff Molina. I felt like he handled it like a champ.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. I'm glad that we touched on it, though. It is a topic that needs to be discussed, and I'm glad that we discussed it. Now we can move on, because I know we got a great segment coming right up that people want to dig into.
Agreed. Let's move straight on in to Fighter Stonks. I love this stuff, except I can't find the button. It happens to me every time, Locke. Every episode, I forget to click over, and I'm on, like, I almost did like the overlay button instead of the video button. So I was gonna, like, completely block our faces out. No, it's Fighter Stonks time. As you
did you see the new overlay that I added to our thing here? There's just I'm waiting. Bro, I've been holding on to that for so long, waiting for the appropriate moment. I forgot. I think that was man, I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was from one of your videos where, like, you just won. Like, I think it was a split decision or something, where you just won, where you think you should have won. And, it was looking like it was about to be a loss, and you're just like, "Ooh, sheesh!" And I'm like, I'm gonna pull that out at one specific time. And right when you messed up on that sentence in one of our topics recently, it just reminded me to pull it up to be like, let me just flash this real quick. But I missed my opportunity anyway. Yeah. I love it. I do have another one from another friend of the MMA community that I can't wait to use at a certain point. As we got our guy Andrew Thomas.
Dude, memeing the community, it's an underrated part of what we do. Memeing our fellow content creators. It's good stuff.
I love it. It's all in fun. But please continue.
Yes. So back to the actual segment here. Fighter Stonks, most of Prediction Strike. Head on over to Prediction Strike. It's awesome. It's a fighter stock market. They've got all the other sports. So if you're, of course you're here for fights, so your fights, but they do have baseball, basketball, and all the other stuff, football. So if you want to invest in fighters as though they were a stock market, head on over there. Use promo code LOCK. You get a free stock on your deposit when you do that. So why not get in here, make some money? It's awesome. It's fun. We are very much enjoying it, and we're using it as a fun little competition between Locke and myself to see who can be the most profitable over the course of about a year. So this is my fighter database here, I guess we can call it. I'm extremely happy with myself. Got Miss Erin Blanchfield here, who did some good stuff. It's been a little up and down.
Clint.
Yeah.
You want a proper opportunity to use this meme?
Yeah. That's that round one of her fight. That was my face basically the entire time. No, but I'm sitting on a nice 21% increase on my Erin Blanchfield stock here, Locke. I'm loving it. You know what? And real quick, slight sidebar before we keep going with the stocks. That's what I'm looking for in a rising contender, is getting the veteran lesson and still getting out of there with a win. The fact that she was able to find a way to get it done, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm looking for. So honestly, man, both of my stocks did very well because Aaron Blanchfield got it done and my guy Jeff Molina. I've also got him here in my roster. He was one I sniped way early on as soon as they made him available to us. Where'd he go? He's in here somewhere. I know he is.
Did you sell him without knowing it?
No,
Oh,
I
there
did
it
not.
is.
I would never. I would never.
How dare
So,
you suggest such a thing?
obviously, not as much hype surrounding Jeff Molina. People thought he lost his fight a little bit more. So, still not quite the increase we're looking for, but it's headed the right way. I'm happy with it. Locke, what I'm going to do today, something that pains me a little bit. I'm going to take an L on Mr. Askar Askarov. I'm going to go ahead and sell Mr. Askar Askarov. I've got a minus 16% here on the guy. Now, since you and I have been doing this thing, we talked about we're going to go ahead and make it a bit more long form. We might tweak the rules, but I'm running out of capital. And I think Askar is taking up a roster slot. This $3.75 is something I can use to invest in other places. He lost his most recent fight, and I thought he was championship material. He just lost his upcoming fight due to an injury, so he's going to be inactive. I can see this price going down. I could see this number going down a little bit, and he's going to be 2, 3, 4 wins maybe out of a title fight at this point. Does he even get to the title fight at this point? I'm not sure. So instead of hanging on to this $3.75 priced stock and hoping he gets up to $4 or $4.25 at some point, there's other spots. There's better spots that I can invest in lower, and that'll free up some capital for me. So I'm going to drop Askar Askarov. Makes it tough. And I'm going to have the same exact situation here with Kelvin Gastelum. Locke, I know KG is young. I know he's still got a lot of years ahead of him, but he's also got a lot of tread on the tire. He's got a lot of miles on him, and he has reached the highest peak without quite touching the belt. I still think he's in the wrong weight class, and I don't know that he's ever going to touch gold as much as that is his mission. On a mission for gold is Kelvin Gastelum. I don't know that it's ever going to happen. So because of that, I don't know that he's really ever going to get over 275. And if he does, I think it might be barely. I think my money is better used in other places. Now, here's one, Locke, that I am not sure what to do with. Mr. Andre Fiallo, the talk of the town. I jumped in on him early. He knocked a couple of guys out. I got a 5% increase on him. And I have a bet on Jake Matthews coming up here on Saturday.
Yeah, you do.
I think this man is going to lose his next fight. But I'm going to keep the fighter stock because while I do have a bet against him this week, and I've done this before where I was like, I bet against the guy. I should have sold the stock. Not this one. Not this one. Because I think this is a situational spot, Lock. First off, he's got the death touch. He could just clip him one time, win the fight. The stock continues to rise. I lose my bet, but at least my stock goes up. So I'm going to kind of use this as a hedge. And even if he loses to Jake Matthews, I think he's going to be a fun fighter with a lot of upside moving forward. Price is still cheap. I can do better than 5%. I'm keeping him. I just wanted to touch on that, let everybody know my plan. But I'm going to buy a stock, Miss Ramona Pascal.
Big
This
moan.
is another buy low spot, Lock, that I have been looking forward to. I think she's underrated. I think she's big. She's going to come out here, grapple, get the win. Good spot for her moving forward. I do have a regular bet on her as well. So I like doubling up there on that spot. Jack Della Maddalena. I'm going to be buying a stock of him. I am a little concerned about this first matchup. He may potentially lose this one, but if he gets by this first test, it will springboard him. He's going to be off to the races if he gets the win. And even if he loses, I do think any downside is going to be recovered relatively quickly. Losing to someone like Ramazan Ameev, it's not going to damage you all that much. That stock will bounce back even in a loss. So I think it's kind of a win-win just to jump in on him now. And I got one more move to make for you, Locke. One more. Josh Kalibau.
Ooh.
I'm going to take a buy low spot here at 60 cents on Mr. Joshua Kalibau. I actually think he's a big time sleeper here in this fight. He's training with Alexander Volkanovski. He's fought well and hard with big name guys like Jalen Turner, short notice up a weight class, and Charles Air Jourdain. He fought to a draw with, who that has aged extremely well with how Charles has looked recently. I think there's a lot of upside to be had with Josh Kalibau, and I think he's being slept on this week. Especially, I may end up betting him. I haven't pulled the trigger quite yet, but at 2-1, I kind of like it, Locke. So I made a bunch of moves on my Fighter Stonks today, freed up a little bit of capital, reinvesting in some lower price stocks that I think have more room to rise and grow. I'm just Wild West firing the guns out here. Let's go.
Once I saw all those prediction strikes tabs opened up, I was like, this guy's making some moves today. But definitely
Locks
did.
all my opened up tabs and went, ah!
Pretty much. But luckily for you, even if I had gone first, there weren't any moves that I was really going to make for this event. We'll just quickly look at how my guys performed last week, and that was the only guy performing was Movsar Evloev. Goes out there and just dominates Dan Ige from minute 1 to minute 15.
That had to feel good.
It's always weird in those spots where he's a decision fighter, and he's always like that close away from like finishing his fighters. And I was just like, for anybody holding a decision ticket on Evloev, you must be clenching your butt cheeks the entire time, because it looked like he was going for the finish there. He was really battering Dan Ige that night. But I believe it's a 12.5% increase that I've gotten from Movsar Evloev since I've purchased his stonk. Very happy with what I'm getting there. I'm going to continue to hold on to this guy until he gets a title shot, because I believe that's how good this guy is. Considering who the champion is right now in his division, I believe it's Alexander Volkanovski. I'll have to run the tape, try to figure it out, but I don't think I'm going to be betting against Volkanovski in any time soon. So maybe selling on Evloev before that title shot will be the best way to go. Speaking on selling before a title shot, or selling before getting too far ahead of yourself, I got to do it this week, Clint.
Oh,
I'm thinking about it.
Oh.
I'm thinking about it. I'm highly considering selling my Manon Fiorot stock. She is scheduled to go up against Katlyn Chookagian. You guys know me. You guys know I love some Katlyn Chookagian. I think stylistically she matches up very well with Fiorot. Fiorot has the power.
Mano gonna get chooked.
Yeah, exactly. Chook. Let's go. I'm considering selling it. As of this moment, since I purchased her, she's gained about 26%. You know what? The fight's still a couple weeks away. I'll sit on it a little bit longer, but that's one Fighter Stonk I'm thinking about selling, because I do think she'll end up losing to Chookagian, and I'm expecting Fiorot, with all the hype on her name currently, she'll likely be the favorite in that spot. But I might have to sell on her going into that fight, because I think that's where the hype train of Manon Fiorot halts. Maybe for one stop, maybe she'll eventually get a title shot, but I think she's going to struggle with the style, the veteran style, I should say, of Katlyn Chookagian. A lot of other guys I still want to hold on to. There's nobody really from this coming weekend that I want to buy. You're making me consider Jack Della Maddalena, but you already got in on that. But I might actually be betting against him this week, as I find it very difficult to find the cojones to bet chalk on Jack Della Maddalena against the toughest competition
I'm
he's
having
had
the same
to this
exact
point.
problem,
Right?
Locke. I think he wins the fight, but I can't. Laying minus 165 on it though.
Yeah. It's sketchy. It's sketchy for
hard.
sure. So, yeah, in regards to what's coming up this weekend, nothing I want to purchase. So I'm going to be holding on to my whole portfolio here. Magomed Ankalaev has a big fight coming up very shortly. Hamzat Chimaev talking about fights with Colby Covington, maybe even Bilal Muhammad. So we'll hold on to him for a little bit longer. Macy Barber, I believe she has a big fight coming up against Jessica Ai. Could be another spot for her to go out there and increase that stock price on her. Like I said, Jared Gordon just lost his last fight, but I'll likely be holding on to that. Hopefully, he can still sell him for a profit if he's able to pick up another win or two. Clayton Rodriguez, I believe, will bounce back very strongly as well. Same with Alexander Rakic. I know he's going to be on the shelf for a while, so I'm just going to hold on to his stock for a little bit now, see what happens in the next coming months. Nick Maximov, I'm sure he'll be back stronger than ever. Ivan Kutalaba, I think he'll win his next fight, whoever it may be, and then I'll likely let go of him, because I don't really think he has too much potential. I really thought the Eric Nixick teaming up with him would be a great thing. Ryan Spann shut that down almost immediately with that beautiful guillotine choke.
Should have bought the Span Stonks.
I know. But yeah, Movsar Evloev to the moon. Hopefully he can make up for the rest of the red that we're seeing there. So no other purchases from me for Prediction Strike this week. But please do remember, use that promo code LOCK. Get a free Fighter Stock with a $20 deposit or more. They are blowing up. I'm seeing them more and more on my timelines nowadays. So make sure you guys get in on the ground floor before they get it straight up to the top. Clint, you wanted to add something, my brother?
Real quick, Luck, I do.
Go for it.
I got to take a victory lap, baby. Sam Page!
Hey.
Sam Hughes. First off, I can't believe that I unfortunately got in after the fact because I called it. I told everybody I couldn't buy it before the fight happened. I'm pissed off. Wish I'd got her at like 80 cents or 60 cents, whatever she was at. But Luck, I want to ask you a question.
Go for it.
What do you think of my Paddy Pimblett stock? Because I remember he was on your sell list before we got with Prediction Strike.
Episode 1.
Even when I bought him, you were like, no. Lock, Paddy Pimblett stock is up 4.79%. He's been matched up with Jordan Leavitt. And I'm sitting here going, do I sell? Do I take the No, we diamond hands over here, Lock. What do you think? Is Jordan Leavitt going to be the guy that ruins my stock here?
He could, man. Paddy Pimblett, I know his grappling has started to improve, but that has been his weakness in the past when guys are able to have that advantage over him. That's on the I believe that card's in July, if I'm not mistaken. So
I got time.
I might go head to head with you and take some Jordan Leavitt stock before that fight happens. So we'll see how that goes. But very intriguing matchup. A lot of people are thinking that he's just going to go out there and starch Leavitt. Leavitt makes it difficult for that to happen. So we'll see if Paddy Pimblett can take advantage of that.
Honestly, part of me wants to see Leavitt win just because he's got that little like baby threat of like they're gonna have to protect me on my way out if I get my celebration the way I want to. Like I want to know what it is. I want to know.
Honestly, knowing that crowd, they might just eat it up. Like they might, like if it's a highlight reel finish of some sort, flying triangle or something, and he does that dance and celebrates and tries to get the love of the crowd, they might eat it up and like cheer him as well too while they're cheering their guy Paddy. But man, I am so looking forward to that fight. Just
it's gonna be fun.
The funniest thing is when that fight got announced, everybody was just like, "What the fuck?" Like, all I saw was WTF or LOL whenever they quote tweeted that fight announcement. I've never seen that for any matchup ever in the past. And I think it's just because of the whole Paddy Pimblett thing and his aura that he brings to the table here, and not to mention the aura that Jordan Leavitt brings as well.
Yep, it's a fun fight. Plus, the UFC is really just trying hard not to get Paddy Pimblett knocked out.
Yeah, they're doing their absolute best. Luigi Vendrabini was always there, but
so was Rodriguez. It was like, bro, we gotta find somebody with zero punching power.
There you go. All right, Rodrigo Vargas. You mean I'm like, who the hell is Rodriguez? There we go. All right, let us get into the Daily Doofus. All right, Clint, let's rifle through these because we're coming up on that 1 hour mark. But my daily doofus for this week was going to be Joe Rogan for thinking that he has the solution for fixing judging. But Davison Figueiredo just comes in and creeps up and said, hey, make me the daily doofus this week, because he is not a fan of the paper champion that they're putting, or the paper title fight that they're putting together between Brandon Moreno and Kai Kara France. I believe that's going down in a couple months here. Apparently he's injured. He's not able to fight, hence why the UFC wants to continue on with that division. And then obviously Figueiredo will fight the winner of that. However, the quote that stands out to me the most from what he was saying in regards to that was that the UFC needs to pay him more to keep him at flyweight. Hey, Davison, who do you think you are? You just won the title back. You're 34. You're going to be 35 by the time you fight. You think the UFC cares to pay you more? Sure, you did a favor for them way back at UFC 255, where you stepped in on short notice and fought Alex Perez, finished him pretty quickly. Dana White threw that bag of cash at you. You thought you were in their good graces. And now all of a sudden you think that after a close decision victory over Brandon Moreno that they want to pay you more? Why? Go out there and start doing God of War shit again, and then you might be able to ask for that pay raise, get that pay raise. Go start finishing guys like you used to back in the day. It's not happening anymore. Why would the UFC want to pay you more? You can barely speak English, and I mean that as in being able to sell to the North American community, who is the bulk of the fan base of the UFC. So you're barely marketable. And two, you're just not active enough at this point in time. Like, sure, you did that back in 2020, but nowadays it's like few and far between that we see you inside the cage. You're getting this ego thing that's been the detriment to a lot of fighters in the past. You got to know your worth, and just because you're the champion doesn't mean that you deserve a higher pay raise. I believe the UFC knows what they're doing in terms of paying their champions, or at least this tier of champion, and what you're getting now is probably the best you're going to get. You're not selling pay-per-views for them. You're not a big star in Brazil by any means. So no, the UFC will be like, okay, you don't want to stay at flyweight? We'll continue to pay you what we're paying you. Go up to 135 pounds. We're
Yeah, go right
cool.
ahead.
We're fine. We got Brandon Moreno. We got Kai Car France. We got Alexandre Pantoja. We got a lot of these other guys out here that we don't need to pay more that will gladly fight at 125 pounds. So this week's Daily Doofus for me has got to be Davison Figueiredo, which hurts me, Clint. It hurts me a lot. I love the God of War. He was one of my favorite fighters. Still is technically one of my favorite fighters, but this whole game and image that he's been trying to put together since aligning with Triple C is really starting to diminish his stock in my mind. So yeah, Daily Doofus this week, flyweight champion for now, Davison Figueiredo. What about yourself, Clint?
My Daily Doofus for this week, Locke, is somebody who I touched on a little bit earlier this week. And no, it's not the low-hanging fruit. It's not Sal D'Amato. It's his partner. It's Derek Cleary. It's the guy who scored the 10-8 round 2 for Joe Solecki. Derek, buddy, what are you doing? How do you come up with a 28-27 on Joe Solecki versus Alex De Silva? Even if I want to close my eyes, cover my face, and find a way to make that round 3 somehow go to Joe Solecki, I think that is more justifiable than round 2 being a 10-8 round. It's criminal, Lock. I don't know how. I don't know why round 2 was never a 10-8 round. And if round 2 was a 10-8 round, then round 1 was a 10-8 round. So get your head out of your ass, Derek Cleary. You are my Daily Doofus this week.
There we go. I think we're pretty on the head this week with our Daily Doofuses.
It took everything I had not to make
Sal.
No, just my absolute favorite person in the world, Paulo Costa. Another honorable mention. I mean,
Hall of Famer,
dude. Every single week, I could make Paulo Costa my Daily Doofus. It never fails. Now he's elbowed a woman in the face and puts a video out defending himself, providing evidence where he literally just talks about how it couldn't possibly be him, like it's actual presentable evidence, when she has a photo of her teeth imprints on her bottom lip. Like, just, Paulo, like, buddy, oh.
Is he the Brazilian John Jones at this point? Like,
basically. Between you and I, Locke, if there's a guy on the UFC roster that looks like someone that smacks women in the face, it's Paulo Costa. So, I mean, anyway, he's not my Daily Doofus today. We'll move on. We've got the deadlock duel to talk about instead of Paulo Costa. Lock, buddy, read those beautiful scores off to me. Tell me, what are the standings of the deadlock duel?
Well, luckily, Clint, I did manage to close a gap here a little bit. So since the last event or last podcast that we did, there was only one event, Volkov versus Rosenstrike, and I come out with 2 points. I cashed on Volkov and I cashed on Evloev, the easy picks there, while Clint actually whiffed on Jairzinho Rosenstrike and Felice Herrig. I love it. I hope that becomes a staple of the show now. But anyway, yeah, so Clint comes out with the goose egg. I got 2 points. That closes the lead a little bit here. So Clint is leading 10-7. And I believe we have, let me just count how many events we got left, Clint. 1, 2, 3 more events until this quarter is up. So I got to make up a little bit of space here, make up a little bit of ground, and try to close that gap so that I can actually take the lead in this spot. So like I said, 10-7 for Clint, and we're going to be making picks for UFC 275 as well as UFC Austin. right now, and I'm going to kick it off for UFC 275. Then I'll pass it to Clint, and Clint will start off Austin and pass it right back on to me. So for UFC 275, considering we have a double header for title fights, we're going to go with the main event, co-main event, and then one random main card fight. So let's kick it off right off. I'm going to go Glover Teixeira in the main event. He will likely close north of plus 200 come fight time. He's trending that way. I'm seeing some love for Glover out there, but the betting lines are saying the other way, and I don't disagree with them, right? Yuri Prochazka has that death touch. He can touch the chin of Glover. He could possibly knock him out, but if he doesn't, Glover will do what Glover always does. He'll take you to the ground. He'll smash you on top with his jiu-jitsu. Excuse me. Maybe find a finish via choke or TKO. That's what I'm expecting for Glover. My official prediction on my podcast is going to be Prochazka, but for the sake of the show, I am going to take Glover Teixeira to hopefully rack me up 3 points if he does close higher than plus 200. Co-main event, I'm going to go with the dog once again. Possible 5 points here on Taila Santos if she can go out there and get that win over Valentina Shevchenko. I know you got to bet on Shevchenko inside the distance, Clint. However, I do think that Taila Santos is her toughest test since she fought Joanna Jędrzejczyk, I believe, way back at UFC 231. Santos, great, solid grappler in my opinion. She's landed 12 takedowns in her 5 UFC bouts. She's controlled her opponents for a total of 33 minutes over 5 rounds, and that's kind of been the kryptonite of Valentina Shevchenko if we've seen any over her last couple fights. Most notably, round 2 of the Jennifer Maia fight, where Jennifer Maia got 4.5 minutes of control time after reversing a takedown attempt from Valentina Shevchenko, ending up on top and just riding her out from top position. So I do think that Taila Santos could do that. My only concern, and the reason why I'm not going heavier on Taila Santos in this spot, is we just don't know what it's going to look like over 25 minutes. Can she hold that up for 25 minutes? It's a very grueling game plan, but if she is, I think she could look very, very good here. And not to mention, it's not like she's just a grappler. Her striking is good enough, in my opinion, to stay somewhat competitive with Shevchenko. Shevchenko will likely be the faster fighter here, land the better strikes on the feet, but I don't think that Santos is going to be at all lost on the feet, which should allow her to keep this fight competitive. So I'll go Santos in the co-main event. And then for my the rest of the main card, I'm actually going to go with another underdog here. I'm going to go Ramazan Ameev. I believe he's hanging around plus 130, plus 140. I think he's a good shot here against Jack Della Maddalena. I get it. Ramazan, always tough to cap his fights, considering how close he makes his fights. Perfect example was his last one against Danny Roberts, but I think we'll see him come out with a little bit more fire this time around, especially after thinking he got robbed. Maybe he asserts his dominance a little bit more here, lands takedowns, gets that top position. We've seen Jack on his back in the past against guys like Angel Lusa and a couple guys on the regional scene, but this is the toughest test that Jack has fought to this point, and to have him as a chalky favorite at this point in time makes no sense to me. I'm big on Jack. Like if Clint didn't buy that stock, I probably would have waited till after this fight and then bought that Jack stock. But
that's why I bought it this week.
There you go. He's a better technical striker. I love his combinations. The guy's a beast. I love everything he brings to the table. But as an underdog here, I got to go with Ramazan Ameev. If he can get that takedown game going, that control game going, he should be able to grind out Jack here. So give me 3 underdogs here for UFC 275 to hopefully take the lead come the next time we do this podcast. Clint, who are you going with for 275?
So, Locke, this is make or break week for you, buddy. You closed the gap. We're only 3 points apart from each other. We've only got a couple weeks left. And here's the thing. I'm either going to give you a shot at the lead, or I'm going to straight bury you this week. I'm going to oppo you on every single pick. We're going Jiri Prochazka. We're going Valentina Shevchenko. And I will take Jack Della Maddalena. So we're going head-to-head, 3 fights in a row on this card. And if either one of us sweeps, this contest is going to be over.
Hey, even if I just get Santos and I lose the other 2, I'm happy with that as well. That'll be about 5 points if Tyler wins. You get 2 for the other, so it'll be tied. If
we
Santos
go
wins.
2-1, it's not so bad. But if either one of us sweeps,
it's gonna be a shit show. I love it. All right, you can start off on UFC Austin, headlined by Calvin Kattar and Josh Emmett, which I believe goes down June 18th.
Yep. Not that it matters because you'll be too far behind at that point to catch
Oh,
up.
okay. Clint,
But I'm gonna
get
go with Calvin Cater, Lock. It hurts
sorry,
my
Clint, before you continue, get
Okay.
familiar with this face. Get familiar with it. As you see Jack Della Maddalena get grinded out, as you see Tyler Santos laying on Valentina Shevchenko, and then Glover Teixeira getting that takedown. That's all I gotta say.
I'll
Continue.
be able to taste the drinks in the back of my throat already when every minute that ticks by.
I love it.
No, so Calvin Cater, dude, I'm the biggest Josh Emmett guy, like chest pounding. I love this dude. I've been
Oh, yeah.
talking about him being underrated for so long. And now he finally gets his crack, and I'm like, damn it, I don't think he can beat Calvin Cater. So I just think Calvin Cater is too technical. He's taller, he's longer, and he's proven to be durable. Emmett, he's the hardest puncher in the division. He can shut the lights off on anybody. So if he hits him just right, maybe he is the guy to knock out Calvin Cater. But after the beating he took from Holloway, I'm not sure anybody's knocking out Calvin Cater. So I do think he'll end up getting the dub there. And then on the main card here, this is a tough one, man. It's always this second event that's hard for me because of course I've never done my research by this point going into it. I'm gonna go ahead and you know what? I've got a Fighter Stonk in play on this card.
Oh, I know who you're going with. And if you're gonna go with him, I will likely be head to head against you this week.
You know, and I'm like, maybe I just want to pump the brakes there a little bit. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'll say Guram Katuteladze. My guy Katuteladze has been gone for so long. He made a huge splash in his UFC debut. I bought the stonk. He's had a couple fights scheduled. He's supposed to be coming back. Training partner with Hamzat Chimaev. The guy is a monster. And it's taken him forever to get back around from that injury to get in here. He's got a tough fight in Damir Ismagulov, but I think Damir has looked human in his last couple fights, man. We all thought this guy was a runaway contender, and he's looked like a run-of-the-mill fighter in his last couple. So I think I'm going to say Guram for the upset after the long-awaited return to the UFC cage. It looks like one dog, one fave for me at UFC Austin.
I love it. So I'll go with Cater in the main event. I think we both see that fight the same way. Emmett, warrior, dog all the time, but I think he's going to be completely outstruck. I think this fight is going to look like the Shane Burgos fight if Shane Burgos had better striking defense, right? Shane Burgos can get hit by anybody. And I think that's kind of been the downfall of his career. Whereas Calvin Cater, I know he got hit, a gajillion times against Max Holloway, but I think it'll be a little bit harder for Josh Emmett to land those big shots. And I think he'll double, triple, maybe even quadruple him up on strikes if we go the full 25 minutes. So I'll go Calvin Cater there. I might even just take the chalk and just play his money line. Honestly, I think he is that much better than Josh Emmett, especially in the striking realm. And then as my next one, like I said, I'm going to go head to head with you here. I'm going to go with Damir Ismagulov. I think he had a little bit of a slip up in the Rafael Alves fight at the beginning, managed to keep it together and win the rest of that fight. But I do think he is still the real deal. I think he's going to be very tough to beat for a lot of guys. I think his striking style is very difficult for a lot of guys to deal with. And I think it's going to give Guram some troubles too. Not to mention having Guram kind of acclimate back to being in live action scenarios. I think he's going to struggle with the far superior striker here in Damir Ismagulov. So pretty much head to head the entire way here for me and Clint outside of Calvin Cater. Very much looking forward to it. It's a make or break next 2 weeks for the deadlock duel. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm glad that we're head to head on some of these spots. Should be fun, especially kind of just watching it from our perspective as well.
It's going to be a fun time, Luck. It's going to be good. I thought I had this contest in the bag, locked up, you closing it down to 3 points, and then this 2-week run of head-to-head picks that we've got going. It's not over yet. It's not over. I could be the one drinking at the end of this round of the deadlock duel. I'm excited. That makes it a bit more fun. Don't get me wrong, Luck. Don't get me wrong. Stepping on your neck at the end of this contest makes me very excited, but I'm a gambler. Right? I don't want to play it safe. I don't want to just pick and poke favorites and make sure I squeeze my way to the finish line. I want to step on the neck. I want to dominate. I want to give you a chance to come back and make me pay for it. But I also still want to be the one getting my hand raised at the end. I'll throw the flying knee, then lock. I will take that low percent chance for the highlight reel victory on this one. So it's going to get interesting for the next couple of weeks. I love it.
Can't wait to see how it plays out. All right, let's wrap this thing up with the last segment of the day.
Let's get deep.
All right, let's kick it off right away. Clint, what's your favorite thing to do during your off time or on the weekend? When you shut it down, when you shut it all down, when you hop out of your little studio there, what do you like to do to get your mind off of MMA, period?
I like to watch Master Chef and cook fake toys with my daughter. My daughter is absolutely obsessed with Master Chef Junior, and we watch an episode or two of it every single night while
You have
we're
a kids
eating
version?
dinner.
Really?
They do. They've got a kid, and it's nuts, Lock. Holy crap! The kind of food that these kids can make.
Like
It's
grilled cheese with
ridiculous.
tomatoes or something, or what?
No, it's like high level chef crap that I'm like taking notes, and these are like 9-year-old kids that are making this. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely insane. You should give it a go. It's highly entertaining.
Maybe when I have kids.
yeah. No, but my daughter loves it. My daughter absolutely loves it. And we bought her a bunch of like food toys and stuff like that. So she's got little pots and pans and knives and, you know, a bunch of like ingredients that have Velcro so you can actually like chop them and stuff like that. And so we make food afterwards. So that's how I spend my downtime, Lock. I hang out with my daughter and we watch food that I wish I could eat and then pretend to make cinnamon rolls. That's my night. That's my life.
I love it. I love it. Now sub out your daughter for my dog, Alfred. And I love spending time with him and my wife, obviously. But yeah, I'm a TV show nut. Like I love watching, you know, TV series and all that stuff. Like right now, I'm hating myself that I'm not able to watch some of my shows because I got so much content to catch up with. But like, you know, I'm balls deep in The Boys right now. I am all in on The Last Kingdom. I'm all in on Better Call Saul. All these shows that are all seemingly starting up again in the same month, in the same week. Not to mention the Obi-Wan Kenobi show that just started up.
That's my jam right now.
Right? I haven't seen the last episode yet, so Clint did. But like there's all these shows that are starting around the same time. Peaky Blinders is coming back this month as well for the final season. So yeah, I'm a TV nut, man. I used to like to go out a lot more. Now that I'm getting up there, well, I'm 30. I don't want to act like I'm a fucking geezer or anything like that. But like, you know, I just don't go out as much anymore. The most I go out and do is take my dog for a walk, have a little bit of and just come back and chill the hell out. That's really all I do, right? If I could, you know, if the finances were at that point where I'm not, you know, saving for a house or anything like that, I would love to go to cottages more, man. Like I'd love nature. I'd love to just go and chill out in the middle of nowhere, get away from the light pollution of Toronto and just be in the middle of nowhere and just enjoy myself. That's what my ideal thing would be. Maybe watch TV out there. Who knows? But yeah, that's definitely what I would like to do the most. But in terms of right now, my off time, it's like watch TV, go for a hike. That's really about it.
You know, it's funny. I've always been kind of a TV junkie. Me and my wife, our big thing when we were dating was going to the theater every single weekend. Dude, we'd do back-to-backs. Like we'd go 2 days in a row and watch 2 movies. Like that's what we did when we were connecting and like spending time together when we were young. So it's kind of rolled over now that we're older. We watch TV shows, and that's you know, my daughter of course is like a little clone of my wife, so she's got no problem doing what we call couch foo. And just sitting on the couch and watching a couple episodes of the show. That's kind of how we wind down at the end of the night. And you know, all the whitest comedies you can possibly name off, like The Office and you know, stuff like that. That's what we watch. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is one of my absolute favorites.
Love that show.
And honestly, Lock, though, I'm an anime guy. I love watching some anime. Now, I don't do that with the family because obviously I'm the only one that gets into that. But I do try to keep up with anime. I'm in kind of a lull right now with the anime stuff. So I did start Obi-Wan. I just got done with Moon Knight, which I really liked.
I
I
still
like the
haven't
Marvel
finished that
stuff.
too. Got to watch that. I love that stuff too.
Yep.
I at this point in my life as well, I don't mind going to the movies by myself, right? Like I watched actually
If
I
it's a
watched
movie you
Naruto
really
a
want to
couple-
see, right? It's
Exactly.
like, I'm not there to hang out. I'm there for the movie.
Yeah, exactly. So like I don't mind going like at an early showtime when there's like nobody at the theater, or a super late showtime and just watch it. Like tonight, I am highly considering going to watch Top Gun because all I can hear is good things about it. I haven't seen the first one, but in terms of like the fact that they held it back for 2.5 years now, saying that we've had it done, but you need to watch it in the theater, which is why we're releasing it now. I gotta go watch it. I'm not sure if you watched Doctor Strange yet, the newest one that came out.
No, not
But
yet.
they had
Not yet.
I've seen it, but at the beginning of it or before it starts, they have a preview for Top Gun for like 4 minutes where they show one of the what do they call them, dog fights when they're they showed one of the dog fights. It was fucking sick.
I'll bet that's
Like, I was
nuts in the theater.
oh, it was sick. So I want to go watch it, and the wife's like, you know what, I don't really care to watch it. I'm like, guess I'm going by myself. It's totally fine. So I don't mind that at my age. Yeah, I mean, it's whatever.
Dude.
I just want to go see the fight or see the fight. I want to
I
go
have
see
no
the movie.
shame. I have no shame, Locke. I have no problem going to a movie by myself. It's a movie that I want to see in theaters. I was gonna do that with Godzilla King of Monsters. I was like,
ooh,
that's a theater movie. Like
Yeah.
you don't watch that movie on your
No.
little screen, my
Nope.
computer screen. Like you need the surround sound. You need your butt to shake when that monster roars at you. Look, I'm talking with my best friend right now, Locke. He's a super nerd like myself. We're gonna go watch the new Dragon Ball Z movie that's coming out. I'm gonna be in line with 12 and 13-year-olds to watch the new DBZ movie in IMAX in a couple months.
Clint, I have to get back on it because I used to be such a diehard Dragon Ball Z fan. Like I stopped after the Buu saga, but like I know there's Dragon Ball Super now, which I believe is a sequel to that. Is that correct?
Yes. So let me go ahead and just set the table here for you, Luck. When I first died, and I know the show is supposed to be over by now, but everybody gets a little bonus content today. When when I first tried to like dive into Dragon Ball Super, it is not Z. Like you gotta come to an understanding super quick that the writer for DBZ, Toriyama, he kind of went back to his roots. Dragon Ball was a comedy. And then Dragon Ball Z was what got all of us, into the gym and fighting back in the day.
Yeah.
We got our
training grounds in the back of our
testosterone went through the roof watching Dragon Ball Z. But no, he originally was a comedy writer. Well, Super kind of goes back to his roots. It's much more goofy. It's much more relaxed. It doesn't make as much sense. So like there's fights that happen in it that you're like, oh, come on, bro. Like, and I put it down. I watched the first arc of Super and was like, wow, this is bad. And then I'll be honest, I hit one of those lulls where I had nothing else to watch. And I was like, well, fine. I guess I'll watch more Dragon Ball Super then since there's nothing else on. And I went back and started watching it. And I had read a couple of people saying similar things to that. And with a different lens to watch Dragon Ball Super through, I started enjoying it again. If you're expecting more of Z, you're going to be disappointed. If you go in understanding that it's a bit more lighthearted, it's a bit more fun. Don't get me wrong. They ramp the action up at a couple points. You get some Dragon Ball Z at like the Tournament of Power arc when there's the big bad guy and the universe is on the line. You get some Z during that. But the rest of the time, it's a bit more drawn out. It's a bit more humorous. It's a bit more lighthearted, a bit more fun. But I've enjoyed the movies, man. When Resurrection of Frieza came out, when the Broly movie came out, those are much more Z. Those are much more action, hard-hitting, chest-pumping, and that's why I'm super excited for this next movie coming out, because I expect it to be a little bit more intense.
Quick question, then we'll wrap this thing up. Is the Buu saga the last of Dragon Ball Z?
Yes. Yes, okay, it is.
That is and then Super picks up right after that.
Basically, yeah. They had GT, which was the series that was like
I never watched that.
It was bad. It's a spin-off series. It's not even written by the same guy. Like it's not truly the next step for Dragon Ball Z. It's non-canon, if you will, if I can be just a complete nerd for everybody. So yeah, don't bother with GT, but Super
and
is
the movie that's coming out is a sequel to Super or what?
Yeah, so what they're doing, it's actually really weird. They're basically doing a movie every 2 years or so,
Mm.
and then it's part of an arc that they'll do in the series. So, like,
Oh, okay.
the Resurrection of Frieza movie that came out a couple of years ago when Super was really just kinda getting the ball rolling, that's, like, the first major arc of Dragon Ball Super.
Ah, okay,
So it's a
okay.
movie, it's super high quality, it's intense, and then they space it out and they added a whole bunch more stuff for the first arc of the series when it came out. So you're kind of watching it a second time when the TV show comes out, but they fixed a couple things, they added some dialogue, they made some stuff make more sense, like, so it's okay. And then they, so far with the next movie with Broly, that's not something that they've redone with Super, but he's going to supposedly be in Super at some point. So they're kind of connecting with one another. Whereas like back in the day, I don't know if you ever watched any of the specials or the movies
I
when
never
Z was
actually.
running, none of them had anything to do with the main story. Like there was
Mm.
no
Yeah, it was
connectivity
just a
between
different
them.
timeline or something like that.
Yeah, they were just like
Yeah,
one-offs. It was like, this
yeah.
is a cool
I
thing.
think
This
that's
is a
why I
cool
didn't.
story,
Yeah.
you know? So these at least are kind of tying into the overall plot of Super, but
I think we
it's
need to do a TV shows and movies
right.
podcast at a certain point. Dude. Yeah, if we're as much TV nerds as we think we are, and we watch some of the same shows, fuck, that would be great as well. Maybe some
Eh,
people would enjoy that.
Locke, this is the Deadlock podcast. This is our show.
Yeah,
If we want to
exactly.
do a spinoff
You
and be
know
like, you know
what?
what? A little
Yeah,
less MMA. This week we're talking movies. We
yeah.
could do that. We could
Maybe
do
on
that.
off weeks, maybe on UFC off weeks or something. We'll run that. I love it. I love it. All right, let's wrap this bitch up. My wife is waiting for me because we're supposed to
I
have
know,
dinner
right?
now.
We're every time, Locke, whenever we do these shows, I get
I
out there and
know.
my wife goes, "You said it was going to be 60 minutes. You said you were
You
going to
think
keep
my
it
wife
to an
doesn't do
hour."
the same thing?
Every time. Every time.
Perfect. All right, let's wrap it up.
All right. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you smash that like button for us on your way out. I'm your boy, Diehard MMA Podcast. Give us both a follow, subscribe here, help us out, retweet the show. Locke, you let them know who you are and where they can find you, of course, even though they already know.
MMA LOT on all social media platforms. I will be dropping Coach's Main Event Marathon tomorrow. That's breakdowns with Eric Nixick, Mark Montoya, as well as Santino DeFranco. And I might do my own podcast tonight. If I end up going to Top Gun, maybe not. Otherwise, I might do my own podcast, which I haven't really
We'll
finished
just do
yet.
a movie review.
Yeah, maybe I'll do a movie review. I got 2 more matchups that I still need to get through for this card. Once I do that, then I'll drop my full podcast. And then, Friday, Ultimate Wayne Show. I'll be back with my guy, Mike Constantino. He is in first place in the $500 lock of the night high stakes game. He's one of the former coaches of Khabib way back in the day. Very smart dude, works with Jim Miller, Cole Miller, all those guys. Not Cole Miller, Dan Miller, I should say. Great, very sharp guy. I had him on a couple months ago, but I had to quickly get through that podcast due to time constraints. But now we'll have him on for a full hour, 2 hours, maybe even 3 hours. So make sure you guys check that out on Friday. And that's really about it. Me and Clint will be back next week on my channel for the Fighter Stonks check-in, where we get to see how our stonks did this week and if we want to sell or buy anything going into UFC Austin.
I love it. Thank you all very much for the support. Without you guys, we would be nothing. So get out there this week and remember,